And good morning. I normally, so I had a little bit of a technical hiccup this morning. I don't know what happened, but when I hit the go button, it just sat there and said connecting with a little spinny ball for a few minutes. I'm like, so I had to reboot. So good morning. I was able to see some of your chats that were posted before we went live. Anything that you post in the live chat now, I will see. I did happen to see that Biscuits and Gravy asked to explain the scoring system, which I can do, certainly. And Trish says, glad you made it. Yeah, me too. I was going to touch and go there for a minute, and I need to reset the scoring buttons. So, Biscuits and Gravy, there are 3 scores that we give currently. We've talked a lot about updating that, and really it's just a matter of developing that score system that we want to make some changes to. But we're keeping the original for right now, and the original is DRT, DOT, and BRM. A DRT means that the bad guy was dead right there. The victim employed their lawfully owned firearm to eliminate the threat, and they did so with extreme prejudice, and that bad guy isn't even going to cost the taxpayers court fees. A DOT is a dead over there. That means that the criminal ended up in the hospital from his injuries, but and expired there. That's almost as good as a DRT, but it's less preferable because we still have to pay for an ambulance in that case. And then the BRM, BRM is a military acronym, stands for Basic Rifle Marksmanship. The BRM score is a bunch of bullets were exchanged, and the bad guy didn't get hit. I will give a BRM score to police officers who sustain injuries or engage in a firefight without eliminating the threat, or a homeowner or other lawfully armed citizen who has a reasonable need to employ their firearm in self-defense, but fails to finish the mission. So, and hey, if you have to use the weapon to discourage a criminal to protect yourself, better judged by 12 than carried by 6, right? But if you must employ that weapon, be prepared to do so. And by be prepared, I mean practice. Right? Get the cheapest ammo you can get that's still safe to use, and go to the range and put them rounds down range. Make sure that you know that when you have to employ that weapon, you will do it effectively and safely and efficiently, because y'all, bullets are expensive nowadays. Like it's like $1.50 a round for the 5.56 that I need for my AR, and that's unacceptable. And that's not by accident, by the way. So this morning, before I start scoring DRT, or before I start scoring DGUs, which is defensive gun use stories, before I start scoring DGUs into DRT, DOT, and BRM, I want to take a look at a piece of news, not quite exactly breaking news that came out earlier this week. I almost made Monday's show or Tuesday's show about it, but I decided to save it for today. I almost went ahead and used it for yesterday to do a whole Toter Win Thursday, but you know what? I can do a Toter Win for somebody on a Friday. So let me just, first we're going to take, and it's done it again. This used to never happen, and now it's happened a couple days in a row. Unacceptable. Okay. It's because I've got so many damn monitors plugged into this computer, the poor thing gets confused. So, Missouri governor pardoned St. Louis couple who pointed guns at protesters. We're talking about the McCloskeys. So, Missouri Republican Governor Mike Parson, and yes, we're taking a we're taking a look at CNN's take on this first. Damn. Sergeant Major says, I'll be thinking of you while we're on the range today and then brats on the grill. Granddad, I wish I could be there today, but I've got some business to go handle today. That's all right. I'll catch you next time. I hate to say that. I hate to say I'll catch you next time. I'd rather blow off work, but stuff's got to be taken care of. So we are going to take a look at CNN's take first. Missouri Republican Governor Mike Parson. Okay, in this context, why does it matter that he's a Republican? Because you're CNN, and nothing that entails freedom, liberty, or conservatism is acceptable. All right, this is part of the narrative. That the narrative is that the Constitution itself is a force for evil. Well, of course it's a force for evil. If the God that you worship is active, open, naked tyranny, then certainly you would regard the having and protecting of liberty to be the opposite of your personal desire. And that is, by and large, what men believe to be evil. Right? So, we tend to believe that life is good and the opposite of that is not. So the couple who pleaded guilty in June to misdemeanor charges stemming from the incident were among the 12 pardons that Parson granted last week, the governor's office said in a statement. Now, they did plead guilty. They pled down to a lesser charge, and that is the correct word, by the way, pled down to a lesser charge from the ridiculous charges that were being leveled against them. But let's be clear. The McCloskeys did nothing wrong. On their private property, they armed themselves to defend themselves against not protesters, guys. Somebody who says the McCloskeys, what was the headline? Pointed guns at protesters. That's a lie. The McCloskeys never pointed guns at protesters. Period. That is a lie. What they did do is they used those weapons to dissuade terrorists. And this is not a semantic distinction. And this is not a matter of opinion. Okay? Protesters, First Amendment. You have the right to peaceably assemble. You have the right to speak freely, and you have the right to petition your government for a redress of grievances. Peaceful assembly, speech, petition. Nowhere in the First Amendment does it say you have a right to throw Molotov cocktails or industrial-grade fireworks or, I don't know, bullets in protest. The people that the McCloskeys were forced to interface with in front of their own home were BLM and Antifa activists flying the gang colors, flying the criminal organizational banners of BLM and Antifa. Because, don't get it twisted. BLM is 100% an organized crime group. They're a terrorist organization, which is to say that they have employed violent means to insist on the government or the people of the government to make changes in politics, policy, and law. They are, by absolute definition, there is not an argument against this statement. BLM is a terrorist group. Now, that said, what the McCloskeys did was 100% protected by the law. They were 100% within their rights and morally right to engage the way they did. You come at a private residence with weapons of terror, having brute forced your way through the gated community's front gate, destroying private property in order to access private homes with terrorist tactics. And yes, the homeowners are absolutely justified, morally and legally, to actually open fire on your terrorist ass. Now, there's some reasonable criticism of the McCloskeys. Okay? They lack trigger discipline. They clearly have not spent the training time that they need to. In fact, I'll just go ahead and give them our first go back to the range today. But just because you are not a professional warfighter, guess what, guys? If you're an American citizen, you have the right to keep and bear arms. And the core reason that you have a right to keep and bear arms is because you have the right to defend your right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, as much as the Biden administration wants to just light the Constitution on fire and allow the CDC to abolish property rights by fiat, the fact of the matter is you still have property rights, and with them the right to defend that property and keep it safe. So that's CNN's take on it. Is these were peaceful protesters. We're going to take a look at Fox News' take on it. Remember, guys, Fox News is not your friend, but they're going to pretend a little bit. Mark McCloskey cites governor's pardon in lawsuit to get guns back. Before we read into this, because remember, on this one I just grabbed the headline and we're gonna run with it. I suspect that Mark wants the guns back primarily because they're a sort of memorabilia, almost a war trophy, and I totally support that. I'm totally comfortable with that. If I had gone through this whole ordeal, including the courts and the obviously corrupt prosecutor, the obviously corrupt police involved in this case, I would absolutely hang that rifle on my wall on a placard with a memorialization plaque on it. 100%. The St. Louis man who was caught on video waving a firearm at Black Lives Matter. See, waving a firearm, that's even Fox News is intentionally and maliciously mischaracterizing the activity. At Black Lives Matter demonstrators, again, lie. To call these people demonstrators is to lie. To call them protesters is to lie. Along with his wife outside their home is suing to have the guns returned days after a pardon granted to the couple was made public. And absolutely, it's his property. It's his property that he has been unlawfully, unconstitutionally deprived of, without cause. Mark McCloskey, a Republican U.S. Senate candidate, filed a lawsuit Wednesday in St. Louis City Circuit Court, arguing the pardon from the Republican Governor Mike Parson nullifies any judgments and orders in the case. That's correct. That's not an argument. That's a statement of the law. And when it gets to the courtroom, that is going to be cited as an argument from the law, not an argument from the facts. Those are two different things. And in this case, what he's arguing, it is a fact, but this is not an argument from the facts. This is an argument from the law because of what it means under the law to receive a pardon. He is seeking to have the state return a Colt AR-15 rifle and Brico pistol. I might tell them they keep that Brico pistol. I mean, come on. And I ain't gonna lie, guys. I love this picture, and partially because Patricia McCloskey looks let's face it, she looks comical in this picture. And I love that they both came out barefoot. I just think that's hilarious. Now that the government has pardoned us and those judgments are annulled, the state should have no legitimate reason to have our guns. Argument from law, not facts. McCloskeys told Fox News, saying the city was planning to melt the weapons. It doesn't do me much good to have a couple of pounds of melted aluminum. I want my guns back. Hear, hear. And if that rifle is made of aluminum, then you might want to rethink that buying decision there, Marky boy. So, that's the one that I wanted to cover today. And then I'm only going to do one DGU today because I've got to get out the door and go handle some business. But this one comes to us from our good buddy, friend of the show, longtime friend of the family, Rod Purvis. Police say group wielding landscaping bricks chased shooter as fight turned deadly in Fort Worth. The shooter died after being hit repeatedly with landscaping bricks, police said. Now, there's a reason I wanted to hit this story, and there's a reason Rod thought it was an interesting story. So 2 people were killed and 3 others hurt in a fight overnight Monday that led to a crowd chasing a shooter with landscaping bricks, Fort Worth police said. Police said officers responded around 1 a.m. to the call on the 5600 block of Shiloh Drive. When they arrived, they pronounced 2 people dead at the scene, and first responders took 3 other people to local hospitals for treatment. 1 person was still critical, while the other 2 were expected to survive their injuries, according to police. So we're going to give that 2 DRTs. Now, the violence began after an argument broke out during a small backyard gathering. Police said 1 person had gotten upset and left, but then came back with another person and got into a verbal fight with other people there. The person who was upset then shot someone, police said. The victim is expected to survive, per officials. Police said the crowd then started to chase the shooter, who turned and fired at people in the group. In response, police said some people picked up landscaping bricks and began to throw them at the shooter. As the chase continued, the shooter either fell or was taken down by the group, according to police, at which point they shot at the group, hitting 2 more victims. One of those people died, while the other is expected to survive. The group then hit the shooter multiple times with at least 1 landscaping brick per police, and they died at the scene. The detectives are interviewing everyone who was involved, police said, and an investigation is ongoing. Okay, I'm going to take back one of those DRTs, because one of those people dead at the scene is one of the victims, and we don't give a positive score for the loss of a victim's life. Police did not specify how the 3rd victim was injured. So, what you have here is a case where environmental combat had to be employed because none of the other combatants were lawfully armed. But they could have been. They should have been. This guy died bloody and nasty, beaten to death, stoned to death. And hey, that's fine by me. Bad guys want to get run under the millstone. That's a risk you take when you decide to engage in criminal activity with a deadly weapon. Sure. But guess what, guys? As the victim or the defendant, as the non-initiator in a conflict like this, that you had to employ environmental tactics, which is to say that because you were not responsible enough to be armed. Forewarned is forearmed, but guess what? So is forearmed. Strapping that pistol on when you get dressed in the morning before you go walking around in the world where dangerous criminals lurk is the responsible thing to do. And I'll take that a step further. The more strict the gun laws are in the area that you live, the more responsible it is to be armed. And if you can do it lawfully, that's so much better. But the higher the rate of gun control in your area, the higher the probability that you will be a victim of gun violence. Because there's not an active environmental deterrent to criminals not only being armed, but using small arms to commit crimes. That's why this story's interesting. These people overcame a terrible situation through the creative employment of environmental tactics, which is to say that they used the weapons available to them. Right? If I were unarmed and suddenly had to, grab the nearest thing at hand, like a 50 caliber bullet, and just start stabbing somebody with it because I didn't have the foresight to bring along a Ma Deuce to go with it, then that's what you got to do. That's environmental combat. If you have to, grab the frying pan that's closest to you. I mean, hell, I've been known to throw a cigarette machine or two at somebody in a pinch. Sometimes it's just you make do with what you got. But if you're responsible and armed, and Steve points out, responsible is not saying till 3 o'clock in the morning drinking, but I made it. Morning, y'all. Yeah, morning, Steve. I'll have to get a hangover. I'll have to get you're obviously hungover and showing up for PT. Sounder. It'll just be one really loud, high-pitched bell. Ding! Maybe a bright flashing strobe light. Yeah, well, I'll hook that up. So, that's why I wanted to cover that story. That said, now it is Friday. Here you go, Steve. Is that better? Steve, I have a better idea. Turn your volume down! Love you, baby. It is Friday. Don't stay out drinking all night. Don't drive drink. Don't fry bacon naked. And for God's sake, don't leave your house unarmed. Y'all be safe out there. I love you, and I'll see you Monday morning. Oh, hey, Steve.